Hey there, folks. This is Piano Man Steve Lungrin. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to take a look today in my little lesson here at the song Good Riddance, also known as The Time of Your Life by Green Day. One of the better songs, I think, that came out of the 1990s, and an anthem that I sort of have a soft place for. It was something that my high school class used. Sort of a graduation theme. But anyway, before we get started, really quick, if you enjoy content like this, I'd sure appreciate it if you would give this video a like and subscribe to my channel and click the bell if you'd like to get notifications when new content like this comes out in the future. Really helps me rise up in the search rankings, and it helps fuel new content. Okay, enough of that housekeeping. So what we're going to do in this lesson is what we do in all of the lessons like this. We're going to run this through my magic formula for learning songs, which is also called the glide formula. So really quickly here, let me just bring up my visual aid for the glide formula, and we'll work ourselves through the 5 steps, and I'll show you what we're talking about here. So as you can see, there are 5 steps, and they spell out glide. It's an acronym. It's pretty clever on my part. I'm really, really proud of that one. Anyway, so the first thing that you're going to do is get the chords, which you can do by typing the song title into a Google search, followed by the word chords. And many options are probably going to pop up for you with most any song. And you just pick the one that feels best to you. Usually the first one on the list is going to come from ultimateguitartabs.com, and they do a great job for the most part. Sometimes my ear hears it a little different from theirs, but a lot of times they'll have multiple options. But whoever's you check out, that's a place to start. So you get the chords, then the second step is listen to the song, which again, we're going to go out and find it, and I can't play somebody's master recording on here. I don't have the licensing for that, but you can do that anytime you like by simply searching the song on YouTube or perhaps Spotify or Apple Music or any of the many places that you can either listen to music for free if you're willing to sit through an ad every once in a while, or that you can buy a subscription. After you've listened to the song, the next step is identify the essential feel, and I'm going to be explaining that momentarily, so let me just rattle off the remaining steps, and then we'll get to the piano and show you what you do after you've gotten the chords and listened to the song. So you identify the essential feel. Then D means you drill it down, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here. And then you enhance with signatures and simple improv. So let's get back to the piano here, the piano view, and let's see what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. So now that we have a chord progression, you would find out, well, it looks like we're in the key of G, and our chord progression is G, C, D. If you do not know what chords are, if you don't know how to read chords, there's a lot of great resources online that you can check out for that. You can learn a little bit about that at pianomanapproach.com. You can head over there. We've got a free webinar and some other free materials, and you can learn a little more about that or wherever. But you need to understand how to read chord symbols, which is a much faster way, in my view, to do just about anything on piano than actually reading notes on the staff. Not that there's anything wrong with reading notes on the staff, but we're going to focus on reading chords. It's a great shortcut. So anyway, moving on. So we find out we're in the key of G, and our chord progression goes G major, C major, D major, G, C, D, and then it goes E minor, D, C, G, E minor, D, C, G, E minor, G, E minor, G, E minor, D, G. Okay? So I'm not going to take the time to like do that really, really slow or anything, but just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. So it's basically, it's a 4-chord song, which is pretty common. And it's the 4 most common chords inside any given key signature. The 1, the 4, the 5, and the 6 minor. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry. It does not need to. It doesn't need to get started with this kind of thing. But if you know anything about music theory, you might very well understand what I just said, and that's fine. So, now that you've got the chords, we have to identify the essential feel. So here's where most people get a little confused and basically lose their way when they're trying to learn a song, is that even if they know how to read chord symbols, they don't know what on earth to do with them. Well, what I've figured out is that there are 4 basic rhythm patterns that mostly approximate just about any popular song that you'll ever hear. Okay? I call one of them the basic feel, one of them I call the heartbeat or the syncopated feel, another one I call the country feel, and the final one I call the waltz feel. That's for the stuff in like 3/4 time with like 3 counts and a measure. Everything else is in a 4-beat measure. And what you're going to find is that while it's not going to be perfect for every song, it is a place to start, and the rhythm patterns, the essential feels, give you a way to start approximating the sound of that song, and it gives you something to work with right out of the gate. And then you can do all kinds of different variations and alterations to that rhythm pattern over the course of time to make it more like the song if you like. And there's a lot of simple things that you can do to create variations. So we're going to talk about some of those. But the first thing you want to do is figure out which of those 4 rhythm patterns is the one that really matches the song best. So let's take a look at them here. The basic feel has just quarter notes in the left hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And what we want to think of here is that your left hand is like the drum set, or they call it the trap set, and the bass guitar. That's your left hand's job. We're not going to try and replicate a piano player. Some songs that you want to play won't even have a piano part in it. What we're going to do is replicate the band, okay? Your left hand is the bass guitar and the drum set. So in this case, it's just quarter notes. Your right hand is then guitars, keyboards, maybe even the lead vocal. We're going to talk about adding the melody in the right hand later if that's what you want to do. But the first thing that you do, whether you're going to play the melody or not, is learn a simple accompaniment version. Okay? So in the basic feel, the thing that you're going to do with your right hand first is a pretty simple pattern where you're just going to play on 2 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. What I like to do is think of it as I am awesome, because I like positive reinforcement. So I am awesome. And then your right hand comes down on I am some. I am awesome. Okay? So what we do is we try that chord progression with that essential feel and see if it handles the song. Does it feel like it's approximating the song? That's where we experiment. To me, it's a little too choppy. Like, this doesn't feel like it's really getting the job done. You know, like, to me, that's not very compelling. So I think we can rule out the basic feel. So just because I happen to know that it's the syncopated feel, we're going to really quickly show you what would happen if we tried the country feel, okay, which is like this. Now, that would be an interesting way to play the song, turn it into a polka. I think if Weird Al Yankovic did it, he could call it the Good Riddance Polka, but that's probably not it either. So let's see, what's the syncopated feel? So we know it's not the waltz feel because this has definitely got 4 beats per measure. 1, 2, 3 to do. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not got 3 beats per measure, so we know it's not the waltz feel. So the syncopated feel, I call it the heartbeat because the left hand goes like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4. And the right hand simply plays quarter notes over the top. This is just where we start. That's not where you have to finish, but it's where we start. And if you're struggling with the independence between the 2 hands trying that, try saying this. George Washington, Washington, Washington. George Washington. Shington, Shington, Shington. And then here it's just George Washington, Washington, Washington. And when you put them together, you can even do it on like a countertop or your lap. George Washington, 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 Washington. When you get that down, then you can just play it on the chord. But so let's just see. How does this feel? I'm playing it a little slow if we get the tempo up. And I don't know the words off the top of my head, but that's starting to feel a little more like the song. It's something unpredictable that in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So it's like ding, 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 ding. There's our place to start with a rhythm pattern. So now that we've got our place to start, the next step is D, drill it down. So here's the trick. Most people try to move on to fills and variations and that kind of stuff before they have the chord progression under their hands. One of the things about using these 4 essential feels, it gives you something to work with so that you can just get comfortable moving through the chord progression. Because what I have observed is every layer that you add to this, whatever the newest layer is, that's where you need to be putting your brain power. So you don't want to add a layer until you can just about be on autopilot with the previous layer. So the first layer is get the chords under your hands, drill it down with just that essential rhythm feel, knowing that we're going to make some alterations to it to make it cooler and more like the actual recording. So in that case, you're just going to kind of work through G, C, D. And if you need to, play it nice and slow for a while. And then try to work the tempo up so that you can play through the chords at the same tempo as the song. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. When you have drilled it down and it's under your hands, you are not going to be having to think too hard about how to get from that G chord to the C chord and the C to the D and the D to E minor and et cetera, et cetera. Now it's time to enhance it with signatures and simple improv. So what do we mean? Well, there's a number of things that we can look at. I have a couple of simple improv techniques that are pretty universal that you can use a lot in different ways, both to change the rhythm pattern, but also just to create little fills and solos and stuff. One is called toggling, and toggling is where you play the top part of the chord with the top part of your hand, and then play whatever your thumb would come down on and toggle back and forth. That's a great little because I like to build as much of my improv off the chord I am already playing. I'm a lazy player. It's served me very well. I don't like having to move up and down the keyboard a lot. I want to be kind of centralized. I want to be on this chord and just kind of enjoy as much as get as much juice out of the chord I'm already on. Toggling's a great way to do it. You can toggle on a 3-note chord like this, or you can be playing a big, thick 4-note chord that's basically spans an octave and toggle like this. Totally depends on what your hand is comfortable doing at this time, but they're equally effective maneuvers. So, how would we change the rhythm pattern with a toggle? Well, we can do that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So you can create kind of a constant toggle instead, and that keeps our heartbeat going on down here, which means that we're in the same rhythmic framework as we were before, but it gives us a sort of a different flavor, if you will. And you can also kind of choose to do some toggling and not some toggling. It can be a choice that you're making in the moment. So it doesn't have to follow like a real consistent thing. One of the things I love about using this particular method of playing is that you're going to play it similarly every time. You're going to have a similar feel. You know, you're going to basically use the same feel. You're going to be playing the right chords, all of that. But every time you play it, you're making choices in the moment based on tricks that you have learned that you can pull out of the bag and apply to different songs at different times. And because you get to make those choices spontaneously, the song is always fresh. It's always a new experience. You never play it exactly the same way, but you don't play it so differently that other people are necessarily going to notice that you've changed it. But you know that you're not having to play it exactly the same way. There's always some freshness, and there's always choices that can be made, but they're choices based on maneuvers that you've learned that are transferable from song to song. So it's very versatile and very, very much fun, and it keeps songs interesting to play. The same song can be interesting over years and years and years, whereas when you learn how to play something from, say, a piece of sheet music, nothing wrong with that, but by the time you've got that thing down, you've kind of chewed all the flavor out of the gum, you know? Like, there's nowhere else to go with it. And this, every single time you play, the song is a little bit new, a little bit fresh, and that's not just some, you know, insane muscle memory you have to keep. So, anyway, that's one of my favorites is toggles. Another thing that you can do is arpeggiating, which is to take the notes of the chord, play them individually. Go up, go down, or even if you want to, so up would be like this. Down, of course, would be, so we're already on that chord, but you can also just sort of move your fingers around. Doesn't really matter what combination you're playing it. That's arpeggiating, okay? And so you can do that in a way that's sort of rhythmically satisfying. Okay, so that's one thing. You can also do a little bit of double time work. So see how I'm using rhythm to make it more interesting rather than more notes. I'm not moving my hand around. I'm just right where I already was going to be, but I'm using rhythm as the way to make it more interesting, to spice things up a little bit, to enhance it. Okay? So, we got arpeggios, we've got toggling. Now, this is where if you're more of a novice player, that might be where you want to stop for right now because you want to master it kind of at that level. That might be more than enough to keep you busy. See how I'm choosing a toggle here, an arpeggio, a toggle, arpeggio. That is entirely your choice. You just get to use them as you wish throughout. That can be a nice version of the song for you. Okay? But some of you are a little more advanced and you're like, okay, that's great, but I'd like to get a little closer to the record. How can we use this stuff to actually sort of copy the signatures, if you will, like those really famous sounds from it? Okay, well, let's take a listen to what he's doing there. If you listen to that, he's playing it on guitar, and it kind of sounds like this, right? So basically what he's doing, the first place to start is he's basically arpeggiating down on that guitar. But you got to listen to that rhythm. Listen for rhythm first. Da 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 da. But under here, bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. So your left hand keeps going, but so the way to start is you can just be on the chord, and there's a little bit of a combination, a toggle followed by an arpeggio. Bum bum bum. See how we play the thumb first? So that's like a toggle up. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. So get the rhythm down first, because the rhythm's always the most important. And we're just going to use the chords as they come here. So a G chord. Okay, so that's a place to start. At some point in time, he goes into a full-on strum, and so what you might want to do once he gets, so he says, there's something unpredictable, and in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. Now he just kind of goes into an all-out strum on that, and so you might be better off doing some just sort of toggling because he's no longer kind of doing that arpeggiated signature. So it's like, I hope you had the time of your life. So what I'm doing there, what actually sounds kind of like a strum to me, is to just play the chord and then arpeggiate up. The thing to keep in mind, what's holding it all together is this glue down here. Boom, 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 boom. It's a very unglamorous part, but that's what drummers and bass players do. They do something unglamorous to establish a groove and that it holds the whole thing together. So now if you want to take it one more layer, now that you've got the rhythmic part down, then if you have trained your ear well enough to be able to pick out certain tones, then you might notice that what sounds most like it is to play that arpeggio is going D, G, D. And it stays there when you go to the C chord. So it's basically like a C added 9 chord. This is advanced, so if this goes over your head, don't worry. You don't have to go this far. One of the things I love about the glide formula and the Piano Man approach method is that at every level there's a playable, good sounding version of the song. You could spend the rest of your life getting better and better at it as you learn more tricks and tools, but you get to start with something that sounds pretty good. That's the purpose of these essential feel rhythm patterns, is that they give you something that sounds good and that's fun to play right away, okay? But this is sort of more advanced stuff, so we find out that here's your... And then on the D chord, it goes to D, A, B. That is how you can sort of replicate that guitar signature, that acoustic guitar signature. Okay? So then it's just a matter of sort of comping on these chords, and you want to kind of keep that rhythmic thing going as the singing starts. And that is how we build layer by layer into a song using this method and eventually making it more and more like the recording if that's what you want. But these simple improv tools, and there are many others that I teach over at pianomanaapproach.com, they're things that you can use because you can make the song your own. You don't have to just try and copy the recording, but for those of you who want to sound as much like the recording as possible, this gives you a pathway to do it, and it's one layer at a time. One layer at a time, and you want to pay lots of attention to rhythm. People give way too much credence to notes and tones and pitches, and they need to spend more time on copying rhythms. And that's what where a lot of the juice in pop music is. So, pray tell, you say, well, Steve, I don't want to sing. I want to play the melody. Okay, well, there's 4 additional steps, and I don't have a cute visual aid for these 4 steps like I do for the glide formula, at least not yet. But I call these flow. And here's what you do. You find the melody. That's the F part. And there's different places you can find that. You might be able to buy it in a piece of sheet music or a lead sheet or a fake book or something like that. If you happen to read notes, there might be somewhere. You can either buy sheet music and just ignore everything except the top line. Or if you buy a fake book and it's in there, then that's just going to have a single note melody written out with chord symbols. You might be able to find a YouTube tutorial. Maybe someone's taught the melody that way. Or you can, in fact, train your ear to be able to pick out single note melodies. And it's not as hard as you would think. I can tell you this, a lot of people think they're tone deaf because they can't sing. Trust me, singing has nothing to do with whether you're tone deaf. If you can tell that this note and this note aren't the same pitch, you're not tone deaf, okay? Singing has to do with muscles in your throat and all kinds of other stuff, and so don't let that make you think that you can't learn how to do that. So maybe you can learn, if with a little bit of training, you can learn how to pick a melody out, single note. But you have to find the melody. The next step, the L out of flow, is you lay it into the rhythm pattern. So now we strip everything else away, but we keep that left hand going. Okay? And we play nothing but the melody. Because now we know what we're going to do with the left hand, and we know the kinds of things that we want to do for accompaniment. Okay? So now we're going to put the melody in there, and then we'll be able to come back to that accompaniment to dress the melody up a little bit. But like always, you got to kind of drill this down. You want to be able to get through the melody without losing your place. And that's what this is all about. So We work with just the simple left-hand rhythm pattern and just the single note melody and kind of get it down so that you don't have to use brain power to find it. Okay, so let's assume now that you've gotten that melody down, you've laid it in nice, and you didn't have any trouble with it. The next thing that we're going to do is the O part, which is ornament the melody with rhythm pattern, harmonies, signatures, and fills. So one of the things that I like to do is, can we return to the rhythm pattern in the gaps between the lyrical phrases? Meaning, you play the melody and you'll hear. See how there's a little gap before the melody starts again? So we want to just return to the rhythm pattern in that gap on the chord. Okay, the next thing that I like to do is, can we play the chord and just kind of let the chord sustain underneath that melody a little bit? Play the chord and then play the melody and use your pedal to just kind of let that chord ring until it's time to play a different chord. So like this. Now can we do that and return to the rhythm pattern in between? Now can we harmonize with that melody? Meaning, can we play either thirds or sixths, meaning the space between the notes? A third would be like this. So 1, 2, 3. See how that's a third? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a sixth. Those tend to be good, what we call intervals for harmonies. And you just count them down and follow the key signature. So we're in the key of G. So it's white keys plus F sharp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now can we do that? Play a chord, harmonize, and then return to the rhythm pattern in between. Rhythm pattern and or just fills using toggles or some arpeggios. Okay, so now I'm not a genius at this. I tend to like to play and sing. But this is a method that I've used in the rare occasions when I need to play the melody, and a lot of people are going to prefer to play the melody because they just don't like to sing, or they don't like their singing voice or whatever, and that's fine. Some of this is a little more advanced, but as I say, there's a version of it that's more approachable for you, and you mastering it at one level always prepares you for the next level of this particular method. There's always another layer. Even when I've been doing this for 30 years, every song, there's always another layer that I can reach for and another layer after that. And that's why it makes it continually and perpetually fun to even play the same songs that I've played for many, many years. But I can also learn new songs anytime I want, because the same basket of tricks is transferable skills that I can take to any song from any era and any genre in pop music, whether it's pop, rock, country, R&B, you name it. Could be the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, 80s, 90s, the 2000s, and beyond. So these are universal techniques, and the reason I make videos like this is to just show how this method can be applied to so many different kinds of songs from so many different artists. And, the most important thing is try to think outside the idea of needing a specific tutorial for a specific song, and you're going to learn just that one song that exact way, because that doesn't give you anything to work with going down the road. What you want is to learn a method that you can pick up in a reasonable amount of time, much the way that you would learn to read notes on a page, except learning this method is much faster, in my view, than learning how to read notes on a page. It takes people many, many years to get even reasonably proficient, usually, at sight reading, and most people just give up before they ever reach that point. But you want a method that you can use to learn any song, and a method that you can continue to improve with over the course of time so that it stays fun and engaging, and where you get to pick the songs. You get to pick the curriculum. You get to decide, these are the songs that I love that have inspired me to want to make music, and they're the ones I'm going to work on. And that's what this method's all about. I hope this has been enlightening for you in some ways. If there are questions that you have about this, please visit us at pianomanapproach.com. I've got some great free goodies there. You can hopefully walk away with some free stuff that you'll be able to use for the rest of your life. And if you have any questions, I've got a contact me form over there. I would love to answer any questions you might have. So I'm going to get out of here for now. I've enjoyed showing you this song, and I hope that I hope it's left you with some techniques that you might be able to use, and hopefully even more important than that, maybe a different way of looking at music that will serve you for many, many years to come. I'm Piano Man Steve Lungrin, and remember, if you're not having fun when you're making music, you're doing it wrong. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and thanks for liking and subscribing to my channel. Happy playing. I'll see you on the next one.